All right, here's a little different look this week. I had a chance, we were up on the mountain, and on the advice of one of the naturalists I know, took the family to Big Bear Alpine Zoo. And not much of a zoo person, but this was actually a really cool experience. I really liked this place. They've been doing this a long time. You can see on their website since 1959. They're a rescue, rehab, and then they house animals that can't go can't go back or can't go any further. Excuse my voice. Once again, I've got the 5-year-old flu or plague or whatever they come home with. So I'm trying to kick through that. But back to the zoo. The zoo itself, real easy to access, tons of parking. So if you're like me and you won't go anywhere if it's going to be a hassle, it was real easy to get in there and park. The zoo itself is not really big, which I found to be quite refreshing, because we were able to do multiple laps. And so animals that were either inside or weren't, doing something, maybe we didn't see, the mountain lions in the first 2 laps. Well, we saw them on the 3rd. And even with my 5-year-old, this was a great little place, just to kind of easily do laps and just cool place. I highly recommend it. I shot him over these images. You might have seen some on social media. Stoked to be involved with places like this. Thank you, Windows Security, for beeping during this. Like I'm not already having a hard enough day. Anyway, so let's go through some images and maybe I'll give you a couple tips or tricks for taking pictures in a zoo. I'm not going to claim to know all of these animals. Their website lays it out pretty well. It's a little outside my wheelhouse. We will start with the great horned owl, where I did not capture the horns. I did like this one of the bald eagle. Bald eagles are big, so are the golden eagles that they have. I mean, just you looking at these animals, like these are large birds. So I thought this one had a lot of attitude, kind of with the cocked head. It was pretty funny. Then we go over to a barn owl. I thought this was a decent shot. The framing spoke to me. One of the tricks for me, for shooting wildlife in a place like this, I don't want the photos to seem very enclosure based. I want to hide that or mask that as much as I can. So you might be shooting through a mesh, you might be shooting through a chain link or a glass, depending on. One of the tricks you can use is if you can get the animal as far away from, or reasonably far away from the mesh or the glass, whatever's keeping you between them and you. And I shoot, all of these photos are shot manual focus. The autofocus, if I was going to be doing this all the time, I might figure out if you could pace out. A lot of these lenses have multiple settings to where you can tell it, like, I want you to aim between this distance and that distance. My Sony lenses have 2 or 3 settings for those. So you might be able to say, back off to where, okay, I don't want you to aim before this to maybe miss the mesh. I don't know. Downside to manual focus is action shots are harder, for sure. So if you were going to go try to do a bunch of action shots, that might be my suggestion, is try to figure out that distance and get that setting right so that your autofocus is ignoring the mesh or whatever. In cases like this, again, what I'm doing is trying to get the animal farther away from that mesh and then manual focusing past it, and it does a decent job of kind of, you can tell that there's a mesh here, but it's not necessarily, hey, here's a bird behind a mesh. It's you're able to really get the details. So that distance, and then manual focus, maybe a little bit more increased depth of field as well, so that if your manual focus is a little bit off of what you're really trying to get, you still have a chance to kind of pull that in. This one, golden eagle with some details in the eye. Same kind of thing. You can see the mesh in the foreground. The camera's looking basically right through it. And yeah, it's just, that's the way I enjoyed doing these. I didn't want the mesh to be as much of a focal point. Here it's in the background, so there wasn't much I could do. But another look at one of their big golden eagles that they've rescued or rehabbed. And these birds just look like they were staring at you with a purpose. The Bald eagle seemed to have a little bit more personality. It was, taking a bath here. So I thought these were some pretty fun photos. I'm still shooting fast on the shutter because animals twitch. Even when they look like they're standing still, in my opinion, they still kind of are moving just a little bit. So if you can get a reasonably fast shutter, you're going to generally end up with better results, in my opinion. You're going to be able to have more details on the animal. In this case, you get the details on the spray droplets. You've got the feather coming off here. You've got some spray droplets here in the back. Again, manual focus, and then on this, it's high shutter speed too. A high shutter speed, but also high frame rate. So you just grab a few of them. There's a close-up. Again, same kind of thing, is high shutter speed, high frame rate. You're trying to get a little bit of a distance between, whatever's in between the bird and myself in order for the lens to be able to see through it. These ones I enjoyed. This is my personal favorite, just because it's kind of a little different. And the bird's shaking its head off. You've got a lot of detail, and being able to be that close at the zoo. I'm still shooting with a big lens here, but it was fun. It was fun to be able to kind of watch this bird do its thing. The next couple shots show and I really should learn the word. I should make a naturalist sit down, and I'll buy him lunch or something, make him teach me how to pronounce it. The protective lens that birds and other animals have. I think they're transparent, so you can see here it's as it's halfway open, the standard eye behind it, and then the extra protective eyelid. I liked that shot. I enjoyed the small details here on the feathers, between being wet but also just being able to see the finite details on this bird. I believe this bird's name was Valentine, or there was a comment on it on the Instagram post that they rocked out. Cool bird. Let's see, I think there's another one, a great horned owl. Again, the horns are not so much there. This one, not my favorite of the group. I generally try to get it to where their eyes are somewhat illuminated, but these are also smart predator animals. They're not going to put their eyes in the light if they can avoid it, so you can't blame them when you can't get that shot. Here's one. This one, you can see, this is what I'm talking about. When they're closer to that mesh or the whatever is in between you, it's going to be harder to see through it or to make it seem as transparent. But, I was able to get a lot of detail. Finally got the great horns on the great horned owl. Some nice eye details, beak, the feathers. And, it's, these guys are doing a lot of good stuff. Like I said, usually I'm not generally a zoo person. I get what they do. It's just not necessarily for me. But I felt good. I felt good being here, and I felt good sending them some images. So I'm stoked that they're using them. They used this one this morning, I believe, on one of their midday posts. This is their red fox, and their red fox is named. Let's see. Winona or Winnie. So that was a fun image as well. We'll save it and we'll put it on here afterwards when I edit through this. I'll show you the Instagram post. So I worked a lot in the mountain bike world for many years. I've seen, this is an animal I've seen in the wild. Always super respectful of them. They're just incredible. But their cats weren't out for the first couple passes, and then they were out the last two passes. But the size of the paws on this animal, I mean, they're no joke. this one came out, and it was quiet when we were there. We were there towards closing, so definitely got some extra eye contact with the animals. Here's one of their wolves. It's seen through a glass glass sitting area. It was actually very close to the glass sitting area, so I'm kind of shocked that it came out without big smudges on it and stuff, but it was cool. And then they posted this one as well. I forget the name of this one too. We will look it up. Ivar. So very appropriate name. If I was gonna do it again, I was doing most of these edits at night. In the cabin, trying to get them to the out to these guys kind of quick. I might have. If I'd looked at it a little deeper, I might have photoshopped out the flies. I do that a little bit for the sea lions. Another look, so just again, this one it's not sitting right up on that mesh, so you're able to kind of mask it out a little bit and still get some nice details to that shot. Again, it's manual focus. I don't think autofocus is going to give you a chance at this. This, I believe, was a kit fox. They had this one on their site. Our animals. Red fox ring. San Joaquin kit fox. So it was a cute little guy, and stoked to kind of get the image here. It's got some nice balance here with the rock. It was nice enough to kind of stand up in the light and allow me to shoot through. I don't know what cast this shadow. It seems like it's too big to have been the mesh, so maybe something overhanging. I'm not 100% sure, but came out pretty good. Another trip through and another look at the golden eagle. Liked this one as it's jumping off the water. Shows a little bit of motion. You've got. You still see a little bit of the fencing in front of it, but it's not so much that it's taking away from the details on the talons and the water droplets. So again, like trying to get that distance right is find a way to shoot an animal that's kind of in the right sweet spot. Another look at, as long as I've got their Instagram up, I feel famous because I can just scroll through the top few for right now. Valentine. So Valentine is their bald eagle. And bald eagles actually sound very different than the cartoons or the movies. So it's interesting to like stand there and hear them versus what you think you hear. Another couple looks at their fox. This guy was just chilled out. It was a pretty hot day. I'm not 100% sure which ones these were, but it was, I think some sort of fox. They're cute. And then a handful, the mountain lions were kind of really the last ones that I wanted to get full detail shots, and they until the very end they were kind of chilled out, not coming out. When they did come out, like I said, I was kind of the only person, so there was a lot of interest with me. It actually came up really close to the glass, and just kind of was watching me watch it. And you can see that on this glass, you can see the reflections of the plants. So there's the lion, the glass, the plants, and then me. And it kind of gives it, an extra level of what it is, but that's why that's there. So if the lion was further away, you wouldn't have seen that, because I shot this in a relatively similar position to the lap before, with the lion just standing there before it went underneath the overhang and I couldn't see it. But because it's closer to that glass, in order to get the focus, you're going to see more of that glass and the glass's reflection. Another look. Like I said, I've seen these guys in the wild, and it's it's they're impressive animals, and you can see their wheels turning. So it's usually when I saw them in the wild, I've only seen them 3 or 4 times maybe. You wouldn't see all of them most of the time. I think I saw all of them once, but usually you just get like a glimpse as they're looking through something else, and you're trying to do the math. How long have they seen you before you've seen them? I like this one, same sort of thing where you can see the reflection of the vegetation that's outside. But yeah, just a really cool experience. And you know, this zoo had excellent staff, super helpful. Kiddo was entertained, wife was entertained, everybody there was stoked. I think this brings it to the last of this group. So again, thanks to everybody at the Big Bear Alpine Zoo for doing what you do. It's important. We appreciate it. And if you're in the area on the mountain, I highly recommend it. Even if you're like me and generally aren't going to be, you know, wildlife enclosure zoo guy, you can feel good about supporting this group of people and what they're about. So if you're on my website and you want to know any of the exact details on all these photos, they're going to be posted underneath. There might be some odds and ends as well on my blog. If you're on any of the video hosting sites, I will link my website, and go ahead and jump off of the video hosting, come over to my website and check it out. I post these about every week on kind of the best images that went around to friends, family, and clients. And I look forward to doing this again soon.